I bring that up because of an article that I located. This is in Las Vegas. It's a death ray, but I'm going to show it on the yellow camera again. And I thought it was pretty interesting. It's Las Vegas death ray roast hotel guest. It's a solar convergence phenomena. And that's dated from September 29th, 2010. And I got this from the Register, the UK newspaper. And basically, somehow, through accidental occurrence, I believe, a company constructed a hotel, and you can see the shape of the hotel, that it's concave, and so the reflection from the sun has concentrated and then reflected down to the pool area and to the sidewalk, and it's actually, and actually the death ray moves as the earth rotates, and so it's basically an area where people aren't able to sit, for a long period of time because it roasts them. And so for someone who even doubts the power of the sun to create a strong enough ray to cook something, if it can cook a human being, it could probably cook a pig. I don't know. Oh, that's awful. I'm sorry. But it's true. It's true. But I get fascinated by things like that for whatever reason. Anyway, electrical generation, and then solar vehicles as well. And when I say solar vehicles, not so much cars, but vehicles operated by NASA and the U.S. Department of Defense. We have solar panels that power commercial satellites, and then NASA satellites as well. And it's a way to ensure that at first it was used just as insurance to make sure that when we sent something up, in case something failed, there'd be like a safeguard, redundancy. And so now it's commonplace to have those solar panels so we can get signals coming back to us, whether we're rotating or orbiting those satellites or we're sending them into deep space. So that's NASA. The U.S. Department of Defense has used solar panels on flying equipment, like small aircraft. And I've seen pictures of them. I didn't bring one with me, but they are on the web, on the internet. And basically, the wings are covered with solar panels. And the ones I saw were unmanned, but I do believe it's possible for those solar panels to actually operate as a manned flight too. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if a solar panel can send our probes into deep space or orbit our satellites around the Earth for maybe a year, surely we can have them on our cars. I'm thinking, yeah, we can have them on our cars. And there are races where people operate solar powered vehicles. Universities have teams, and I think there's one kind of race in the Midwest. I'm thinking that maybe it's time for, our mainstay automobile manufacturers to really consider the possibility, if we're losing ground in our manufacturing, it's probably time to take a giant leap forward, and maybe not just, limit our technology to the smallest little steps, but if we want to gain ground that we have definitely lost ground to overseas companies, that might be one way we can do it. Okay. Thank you. That's our studio manager who takes really good care of me. Okay, and so basically, wind and solar are complementary green energy systems. And the reason why is that even though we have different kinds of environmental occurrences in daytime as nighttime.
Keep going.
Alrighty. All right. And so, depending on whether it's day or night, or whether it's winter or summer, one type of energy is going to dominate. Of course, there's more sunlight in the daytime, so solar might take over in the day, and then wind energy might take over at night. But more than that, there's more sunlight during summer, and then the wind blows harder during the winter time, unless you're below the equator, and then you can reverse that. But anyway, a particularly economically sound system is to have both wind and solar. And from what I've read and from what I've researched, the expenditure is not. It's kind of. It might be worthwhile to buy both those systems at the same time rather than doing one or the other, since they're complementary. But even in the case where there's not sufficient sunlight or wind to operate a home off the grid, there are ways to continue operation. And it's kind of like when I was discussing the satellites, it's a type of redundancy, which is energy storage when the wind and sun are not available. Either thermal mass can be used to store sun energy, or molten salts, which is a chemical type of storage. And thermal mass is something that's very simple. It's actually maybe getting an oil drum or a barrel, painting it black, and then setting it in the sunlight, and it will retain that sun energy even after the sun goes down. So it's very simple. Molten salts. And then batteries, particularly for off-the-grid systems. You can store solar energy in batteries, but I would say for the most part those have to be off-the-grid, because most utility companies want to be able to, if they have to, for repairs or for maintenance issues, if they have to shut down an entire grid, they want to make sure that your home isn't still sending electricity into the grid. And so batteries are mostly for off-the-grid systems, but net metering is an option for grid-connected systems. And what that is you basically use the utility company to store your excess energy for you. If you're spinning your meter backward because your house is, with its solar panels and maybe its wind system, if you're generating more energy than you're using, you can sell that back to the power company, or get credited back, get that credit, added to your utility bill, and then, once you're in a place where you actually need that energy, it'll be there for you. Photovoltaics. Once upon a time, the U.S. was the world leader in photovoltaics. Actually, the U.S. was the world leader in a lot of things. But I'll stick with the voltaics. As I discussed before, even at the federal level, and now, at the state level, and perhaps at the local level, if it does come down to utility companies versus homeowners, or utility companies versus solar companies and renewable energy companies at the local level. But there's been back and forth political squabbles over economic policy that have really affected our advancement. And because of this back and forth, rather than continue on with our research and development, we kind of let things slide. Periods during the 80s and 90s where the price of oil became cheap enough to where renewable was viewed more as frivolous and unnecessary. We got passed by. The U.S. became passed by.